I think by the second half of this year, and maybe even the end of the second quarter of this year, I think what you're going to see is the economy starting to slip into recession. If you have an economy that's slipping into recession and the Fed doesn't come to the rescue because inflation's too high, you're going to see stocks collapse. I mean, you will see 25% more downside on the S&P 500. I think by the end of this year, you could see that. And the thought process would be is that if we get in, and this is kind of like the worst case scenario, but if the economy gets into a recession, but the Fed can't bail us out, we could be in a multi-year recession.
In today's video, Chief Market Strategist of InTheMoneyStocks.com Gareth Soloway tells us all about his latest analysis of the charts as well as his predictions and price targets for Bitcoin. Soloway shares his opinion regarding high inflation rates, the stock market, the crypto market, and the Fed. Before listening to him, please ensure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel.
What do you think the qualities are that make a good trader?
Yeah, so I think the qualities, right? I mean, you have to be able to be disciplined. And I think that's one of the things that we've seen in the crypto markets in 2021, where, if you were chasing Bitcoin at 65, 67, 69,000, it was really, looking back on it, a bad decision. And you have to be able to step back and say, hey, listen, this is already run. I'm not going to pay up 3x or 5x of where this was, a year ago or 6 months ago. I'm going to wait patiently, either find another opportunity or wait for this one to come back in. And so I think that's really, that mentality is something that people find a lot of trouble with, because there's so much hype on Twitter, on various social medias, that everyone's telling you it's going up another 100x, right? And in reality, we know it's not going to do that. I mean, yes, you have the amazing things like a Dogecoin, but that's kind of not the norm, right? In the real world of investing, it's definitely unusual. So you have to have personal discipline. You also have to be able to pull yourself outside of the market and view the market and the hype that's going on, because it will tell you a lot about which way you should be positioned. Like when you see everyone being bullish, everyone crazy bullish, start thinking a little bit more the opposite way, and vice versa. When everyone's panicking, go back to logic, go back to, what's the use case for this? Is it a real use case? Is there value here? And that'll give you the right answer more often than not. And then lastly, it's charts, right? I mean, so charts represent human emotion, buyers and sellers. And so if you just learn, like I say, study charts 10 minutes a day, in a year, you'll blow your mind at how much you've learned. And so those are really the keys to investing.
What your opinion is on Bitcoin in 2023?
Yeah, so I think for me, this is very reminiscent. We're seeing this big pump up recently. And I think for me, it's looking at it in a holistic approach and saying, okay, to me, this looks very much like during the .com collapse, when we had these bounces, and it got people very bullish very quickly, because we all remember how amazing 2021 was. And it was 2000 and 1999 back then. And so you get this kind of sentiment rush of greatness and like, oh my God, I can make the same amount of money I made in 2021. Problem is, it's usually during the bear market here, it's usually going to be kind of a bear trap or a bull trap. So I think that's, for me, the issue here, is that it makes me think we still have some downside to go in Bitcoin. But I do think in 2023, we finally bottom out. I think regulation will help with that. And I think finally, people will start to view at least Bitcoin as more of a safety gold, kind of digital gold hedge, versus the overall stock market. So any good trader has to be able to pivot when the charts tell them to pivot. So right now, and we can take a look at my chart if that's cool with you, is we can see that, again, this move up has been a fantastic move in Bitcoin. But again, if we look at the bigger picture, it's still a very small move in the overall market, right? So if you look at this high down. And so for me, I look at that and I say, okay, we haven't even taken out this high at 25,000, which was kind of even a little bit above that. If you look at the 2021 level here, right? So if we go to the lows of 2021, basically it crosses right through this area here, right? So this area and then this area. So for me, in the very least, we would need to see Bitcoin trade above 30 for me to even start to kind of think that maybe the lows are in. And again, it makes a lot of sense, right? If we can establish ourselves back above this level, now you're back above some very pivotal levels in the last couple of years in Bitcoin's history. And you could argue that you're kind of closer to the highs at that point. You're getting closer to that 50% closer to the highs versus the lows on the chart. So I think 30,000 for me would be a pivotal level. There is one more level that I want to show you here, which is it was a key breakdown point. So you just want to watch this as well. You have your pivot lows here connecting perfectly to here, and we could see we broke there. So if we did get above 30, we would want to see what happens at 42, but already at 42, you could still have the lows in. So I think 30,000 for me is really a big pivotal level here. And that concerns me. Like if you go to past bear markets in stocks, commodities, even past in crypto, I mean, look at 2018 into 2019 in crypto is when we had a bounce of this magnitude off the lows. We were at like 3,000, 3,500 on Bitcoin. We went to about 6,000, which was 100% gain. And people were still so scared that the lows weren't in. I mean, no one was really shouting that, oh my goodness, here's the new bull market. Here we are. All we've done is go up, basically 35% off the lows versus 100 back in 2007, 18 and 19. And we have such bullish sentiment. And that's a concern because past market bottoms, now this could be different, but past market bottoms, which tells me it's probability, are telling me to not get too excited just yet.
So what probability do you think that the bottom is in for crypto? Could you put a number on it or?
Yeah, I would say 20 to 25%. So about 75%, give or take, that it's not in yet, that the lows are not in, just based on the technicals as well as the psychological sentiment. So again, there is a 25% chance it is. I mean, and again, as a technical trader, we have to gauge that and kind of be like, all right, that's the chance. So if you're going to go short crypto, you have to take that factor that you could be wrong 25% of the time into account. So it's the risk factors when you're analyzing probabilities give you the ability to do proper position size, proper risk, right? And that's really, really important for traders and investors.
Yeah. So is there a level where you're looking at going short crypto in general?
Yeah, so what for me, at least with Bitcoin now, so it's consolidated here, right? So if we go in, we've been chopping here. You did get a topping tail right here. Topping tails are bearish reversal signals, and you can see that Bitcoin did fall off of that. For me, if we got a big move up to 30,000 right here, then I would absolutely short Bitcoin at that point. It's such a powerful resistance here in terms of the charts that would be the high probability pullback level. Now, again, would I hold it till 15 or 16,000? Probably not, because again, you don't know at that point if the lows are in. But what I would do is I would leg out. I'd probably, once we're back to, let's say 25,000 from 30, I would take a quarter off, and then at 20, take a quarter, kind of like inch out,
yep,
but let a little bit run on the downside. Right. So for me, it would be one of these things where there's a big level here also. If we look at this high area right here, right? So kind of right where we came up to and kissed, we have the high of this consolidation level, and that's kind of where we've stopped up. So what you could do is if you get a good bull flag and it gets above this level, you could play it for a run if it gets above 25. 230, and that would be interesting for me. It's because we've already run up so much. It would be one of those scenarios where I would probably put a very small amount of money in, but you could absolutely do that. Again, it's all about that risk management of how much you're putting into that trade.
Since the market's so macro dominant, do you have a view on the macro and Powell's rate hike cycle and how that could potentially affect equities?
Yeah, so my theory on, or my forecast on how the rest of the year will play out in terms of Bitcoin coming back in, I think by the second half of this year, and maybe even the end of the second quarter of this year, I think what you're going to see is the economy starting to slip into recession, but inflation still above what the Fed feels comfortable at for, basically printing more money. And I think that's going to be the real issue here, is that if you have an economy that's slipping into recession and the Fed doesn't come to the rescue because inflation's too high, you're going to see stocks collapse. I mean, you will see 25% more downside on the S&P 500, maybe 35% on the NASDAQ. And then that puts us in a position where, like you said, if risk assets like stocks are collapsing, how does Bitcoin withstand that selling fury? And I think that for me would be one of the cases of why Bitcoin could still go back down. I think by the end of this year, you could see that. And the thought process would be is that if we get in, and this is kind of like the worst case scenario, but if the economy gets into a recession, but the Fed can't bail us out, we could be in a multi-year recession. And with no bailouts from the Fed printing of money, the question is, well, where does money go? Now, if you get some regulation in the crypto markets where all of a sudden institutional money says, wait a minute, we know that there's transparency, we can trust the books that we're seeing, we know our money's not going to disappear. Now you could have people saying, well, yeah, I was invested in stocks, but we're in a long-term recession. Where would I put my money in the near term? Maybe crypto's the answer there, and maybe Bitcoin sees some money flow even in a recession. So I think that would be my case where you could actually see Bitcoin decouple from risk assets.